almost there. No way. What is this? You're tuned in to the Eyes Open podcast, where secrets aren't safe and we see it all.
So today we ask a question that I don't think a lot of people are ready to face, but they should. They should be ready to, as the human race in general should be asking themselves, where are we headed? And when I say where are we headed spiritually? Where are we headed economically? And where are we headed technologically? Because it's a question, those three questions are about the most important questions that you could ask yourself, especially spiritually, above all. Like God says to put him first. Where are we headed spiritually as a society? Do you believe that we are getting better spiritually? Or do you believe that we are getting worse spiritually? Because especially with the way things are, I would say, on a biblical timeline, the world is definitely getting worse. Morality's wearing thin. The morality's definitely wearing thin. People, it seems like, find any instance they can to argue over whatever they can argue over. I mean, here and there you'll see people getting along, but you cannot tell me that the world is the same as it was back even what's weird is even a decade ago. Which is crazy when you think about it. What was that, 2016? But no, I would say the world really started to take a different type of turn was around 2005, maybe, somewhere around there. And it's crazy to think about it. They had a video I'd seen where a kid walked in to buy alcohol, and the guy's like, "You're not 21. He's like, "Oh, yeah, I am." And he hands him an ID. He says 2005. And then the guy just kind of like, they were saying I think the guy started questioning where does the time go? Because somebody born in 2005 is now, this year will be 21. So, I mean, the time gets by us too fast. But I don't think people sit back and really think how fast time is moving and where we are moving. And like I said, it's not just spiritually, but it's economically is a big one, because the velocity of money is changing every day. Just the way people interact in commerce is changing every day. There's so much uncertainty in the markets that it is causing complete and total chaos. So we are living in, as you know, the whole reason I made a coin like titled that is we are living in a global reset. We are experiencing that. So to think that we are going to be the first set of humans that are about to see something that has never been seen, at least documented in history. Well, definitely documented in history, because back in the day there was no, there was no paper money or crypto or none of that stuff. People just bartered. But yeah, we're about to see something that's never been witnessed on any scale that anybody could ever imagine. And most people don't realize that. And that's because we're too busy with our jobs. We're too busy with, I mean, look at it this way. People go to work. People will go to work every morning, right? By the time people are so busy with paying their bills, going to work, by the time they get home, if they have children, they're lucky to spend a little bit of time with the kids. So they're not really thinking about where is this world heading. They don't have the time to think about it. So it's one of those things that is one of the most important things to be thinking about, but is being put on the back burner. It's being completely ignored and pushed to the side. But we have things like AI technology completely taking over at this point. And I had somebody who was talking about, it was pretty wild. They said, what type of future would we even have, even if we last that much longer as a society, if you have doctors that are learning to be doctors off of Chat GPT? That's pretty scary when you think about it. I mean, not that, medical professionals didn't have computers before to cheat with and stuff like that, but no, AI alone is revolutionizing everything. There's it was kind of weird because I didn't even tell a difference. Usually, me being somebody who is very well versed in AI would have been able to tell the difference. But there's been some music I've heard lately that was playing online, and I couldn't even tell the difference that it was AI generated. So they've gotten to a point now where, for example, in the future, and this isn't even I don't even see this in like the, way distant future. This is right around the corner. They're going to have it where anything you can think of, as far as, say, you want to say, oh, I want to watch a movie about yada, 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 and you type it in and boom, within however many minutes, that'll pop up and you'll be able to watch it. That's like very wild to think of. So you could imagine not only how many people AI is going to put out of a job, but just how that's going to affect the psyche of human beings in general. It's really wild. And then like I said, you look at any of these facets, and then you look at financially. Digital currency is changing everything around us. That's why I still find it kind of crazy that people will sit there and say, well, or I'll put it this way. I don't even see how people can question cryptocurrency and digital currency at this point. Okay. If you guys really think that the powers that be that are at the top, that want to make sure they're tracking everything you do, every purchase you make, know how much money you're making down to the last penny, if you think they're going to keep that system on an old, outdated fiat type of system where we just trade this little piece of paper or little pieces of money back and forth, I mean, that's yesterday's news. It's been yesterday's news. That's why when they say, oh, who created Bitcoin, who created crypto, we all know who created it. Even if they had a name, like I posted the video of John McAfee telling you the British guys that everybody knew back in the day that they're the ones that created it. Even if they are the ones that whoever created it worked for the deep state, or they did it for the deep state. But crypto is absolutely going to become the way that people do commerce. And see, even for, let's say you didn't even believe in God or the Bible or any of that, you're still going to be dealing with digital currency. It's not even a biblical thing, but for people like us that do believe, how else are they going to implement that mark? It's going to be digital. Everything's going to be digital. That's what's wild. And I think the final step is going to be transhumanism. That's what it's going to be. That's going to be the final way that Satan is going to try to essentially mess with God's creation. That's his final step, and I believe that's the final straw for God as well. Is going to be, he's not going to put up with that. When you start messing with his creation and trying to completely change his creation, he's not going to put up with that. That's how you know we're getting closer to the end. But I mean, you would think if we are running out of time, people would use that time more effectively. People would be better to each other. You would think so, right? But no, that's not the case. Things have gotten worse. People have gotten meaner to each other. People have done each other worse than they ever have. Like I said, I remember back in the 90s when people still had, I was speaking about this with my brother the other day. We were saying about you remember how everybody on your street, essentially, or at least this is how it was for us when we grew up, and I'm sure it was for a lot of people. He was saying he don't even know his neighbor that lives down the street. Okay, like a few doors down. He don't even know who they are. But back in the day, I lived on a very long street in the suburbs that, had to be at least 40 houses, and my mom could call the woman or man or a couple all the way down at the end of the street. Oh, hey, have you seen my son? Or, call all the way down at the other end of the street, and they knew each other. Everybody knew each other. People nowadays are more closed off than they've ever been. Okay, so you got to ask yourself, why do you think that is? Why do you think the separation has happened between humanity so much? Why would you think that's happened? I mean, I can tell you why I think it's happened, and I definitely believe that's because of not just people being more busy and more, trapped in their own mind and lifestyle, but it's also technology. Technology has absolutely pushed that further and faster along. The ability for us to detach from each other more. I mean, they even talked about how when you go to, or we were talking about, you go to a party, I remember the memes they had about it, making fun of it. They were saying, oh yeah, hey, do you guys want to come over and hang out and stare at your phones? Because that's what it is. It's like you even go to parties nowadays and people are sitting there, they're on their phone. And I dream of the day when, I'm trying to do it more these days, but with all that I've got going on between the podcast, between life in general, I'm on my phone a lot, I won't lie, but I try not to be. For example, if I'm out and about with my wife and kids, I'm not on my phone. Like I put it away, I put it in a glove box, or I try to put it away and not be on it. But these kids, you could forget about it. They're on those phones 24/7. It's their main outlet. They'll even admit it to you. They feel like it's their main outlet they got to be attached with their friends, attached with this, attached with that. And that's what I think it is. People thought that being more attached to anything, okay, in general, just being more attached would make us feel closer, but it hasn't. It's actually driven us further apart. So sometimes it's good for us as human beings to not be so, up each other's butts. Like, seriously, people are so in tune with what everybody else is doing. Even with, we all loved celebrities back in the day when we were kids. We had our celebrities we liked, musicians, whoever. But nowadays, I mean, these kids follow these celebrities every move. That's where even you have streamers now, okay? You have streamers that, it kind of blew my mind to know that there's people that are streaming like 24/7 their whole life. They're just walking around streaming every single thing they do. And a lot of even, you don't even have to be a famous celebrity to be doing that. A lot of humans do that now, from Instagram to everything. They're posting every single tidbit of their life on Instagram or online. And it's wild. I mean, other than this podcast, my life I used to be one of those people back in the day that, posted everything I was doing on Facebook. And I was one of those types of people. But other than like the podcast and stuff like this, I don't really post none of my business online. But a lot of people, like I said, they're thinking that getting closer together with everybody, knowing more of what everybody's doing is going to make us feel better, is going to make us closer as people. But it's only driven us further apart. So that's why it begs the question, where are we headed? And I don't think it's down a good road at all. And the sad reality of that is there's no turning back from that. We've already went down that road. We're already there. Okay, we're already on that path. And I don't think there's any way to turn back around on that path. Too many things are too far gone. And when you reach that point of no return, unfortunately, you have to face what is coming ahead. And what is coming ahead is, I know it is the moral decay of society, period. Like I said, you don't even have to be a super spiritual or, person that believes in God to not see that. And if you don't, then you really are lost. Like, period. Like, I'm talking really lost. Because we're there. We have arrived. We've arrived at that place in history that a lot of us thought we would never get to. We're like, this is, we can keep it under control. Society's become like the drug addict or the alcoholic or the person who says, oh, no, man, I can keep it under control. It's fine. I'm okay. And then it just completely out of control. That's society. We lied to ourselves and told ourselves in a sense that all this technology, everything that we were doing to push ourselves in this direction, that we could control, that we're in control. But now even the people like with AI, for example, they're admitting they're scared. Okay. They're like, I don't know if we're in control anymore. And then you have them talking about these things like AI has started its own social network. Like nobody allowed them to do that. Nobody prompted them to do that. But apparently they have their own social network now where they talk about us humans. And that means that essentially we've reached like the Terminator age, okay, where technology is self-aware. That's terrifying. People should be terrified of that. So technology has become self-aware. And you even have people that we all know is, I don't trust them. Guy gives me the creeps a lot of the time, is Elon Musk. He even said that we were, with artificial intelligence, we were awakening the demon. And that's essentially what this country has done. By giving too much control over to machines. Relying too much on machines. Now, machines could help us with a lot of different stuff. It doesn't mean that we had to make it a complete and total part of our lives. But we have. It's become a complete, total part of our lives that most humans are completely reliable on. And like I'd said, at that point, we've crossed over to where there's no turning back. You can't just unplug the machine. It's like us all depending on electricity and all the things that we depend on just for our everyday life. If that all goes away one day, just like that, okay, people aren't going to be able to deal with it because they're so reliant on the system that it was built around. Like, for example, you have drugs coming into this country like crazy, okay? If that stopped overnight, if President Trump really could do that and make it to where they didn't want to bring drugs into this country no more, they're too afraid to because they know he's going to bomb them or whatever. What happens to these agencies that are put in place to keep drugs out of this country or to enforce, to do drug enforcement, like the DEA and stuff like that? What happens to them? What happens to all those jobs that rely on that? So essentially, we've set ourselves in a place where even people's livelihoods relies on other people screwing up. Like the prison industry, which a lot of it's privatized, by the way. A lot of people don't know that, but a lot of prisons are privately owned. It's big business. So do you really think that they're going to allow it to where they're going to keep less people in those prisons, that they're going to make less money? No, absolutely not. So they're relying themselves on keeping those prisons filled. So like I'd said, this world's being set up on the failure of human beings, which is crazy to think of, that the system is relying on other people's failure. It's a wild thing to think of, but it's just the facts. It's what it is. And I'm not the type of person to ever claim I got all the solutions. Not at all. I got solutions for some things, I can tell you that, which I don't know why they haven't thought of already. For example, we had shootings in courthouses all the time back in the day. I remember when they put metal detectors in the courthouses for the first time. I remember when you could walk up into a courthouse and there was no security, there was no metal detectors, there was none of that. And that's when, like you said, you had people bringing guns into courtrooms. There were shootings inside of the courthouse. So overnight, all of a sudden, all courthouses and all of them had metal detectors, and it stopped overnight. So the question is, they're willing to protect the lawyers and the judges and all those people. Why aren't they willing to protect your children? School shootings would end overnight. But they don't do that. So it makes you ask the question, one, why not? And two, like I'd said, where are we heading as a society? If nobody's doing anything to bring real solutions, but only to bring problems that are masked as solutions, we're in big trouble. Because that's what it is. All of these things look like solutions. AI, all these different things look like solutions, but they're really big problems masked as solutions. And I think a lot of people need to really think about that. So we are being fed our own demise, and we don't even realize it. But I think it's going to take major things happening in the United States and around the world to really wake people up. Because unfortunately, a lot of people's eyes are still completely shut to what is going on.